Welcome back to West Texas View.
Just before the break, Corbin Young, the executive director of Fellowship of Christian Athletes, was talking about the history of FCA, and he said that a coach from the University of Oklahoma in Norman had started this. And, you know, this doesn't surprise me that it started in the Midwest, does it you? And our Bible Belt part of the country.
Sure did, yeah.
And so then what happened? Once he started and got it going and said that this was a tremendous opportunity, he didn't envision it just for colleges or pros.
Yeah, no, he envisioned it for young people and getting everyone in the community involved. And in fact, really where he started to get some traction and take off was he went to a guy who in the sports world's a big name, Branch Rickey. He was the general manager for the Brooklyn Dodgers and brought up Jackie Robinson, the first African-American in pro baseball. Branch Rickey was actually the very first donor to the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and his name gave tremendous credibility to a lot of other people in his network of influence. And so it took off quickly. God just had favor on this ministry, and they were quickly able to hire multiple staff, and it started out really with just a single office, and now that home office is in Kansas City. And so our national support center is in Kansas City, Missouri. And that's really who we kind of report to. But then we have local offices all over the nation. And something I'm really excited about, just recently, probably in the last decade, FCA has really grown to be an international ministry. Because sports are such a universal language.
Not know that.
Yeah. And so we have people all over the globe, in South America, Southeast Asia, Africa, Europe.
Canada and our
They're everywhere. North America, it's amazing. So. Yeah, really exciting.
But one of the things that interests me about all of this is that with very little money, it just kind of spread.
Sure.
It was just the concept. It was an idea whose time had come.
Yeah, no, definitely. God's the only one who can get glory for this because His hand of favor has been upon it. It's really grown, and even though there are financial needs, it's a ministry that does not have large overhead, and so it can actually function in an area where there is no paid staff, and of course, the areas that do have staff, statistics show that they're stronger, they're more effective, but it's a ministry that can operate strictly off of volunteers, which is something that we really like to boast about.
And that brings us to the territory you serve. I know that we've talked about you're not just here in Midland, even though your office is just here. But talk about the scope of where you serve.
We have a large area. It's 14 counties, what I specifically serve. And really the entire state of Texas is covered. We have 15 area directors, executive directors over different major cities, and they have staff underneath them. Midland, Odessa is kind of the hub of the Permian Basin, and so that's what I'm specifically responsible for, is these 14 counties surrounding the Permian Basin. And
making sure you've got chapters in all these small towns. It doesn't matter how small. Well, I also talk about what's the oldest and youngest member. I mean, is there an age limit at the bottom?
Well, I can tell you, the youngest is we have youth sports, and some of our board members who have young kids who are already involved. We have camps, and their kids will be 4 years old. Now, they don't participate. Our camps are actually 7th grade through 12th grade, are really our summer camps. So I would say officially, probably once you get in middle school is when that FCA starts for you. But coaches' kids are coming to camps early on, and they're becoming aware of FCA.
And so do they stay in FCA after they get out of college and go to the pros and
that's what we're hoping.
Retire?
There's definitely stories like that. Some people end up not, but of course, our desire, and we've seen that the earlier they become involved with it, the more they fall in love with the ministry. And to answer the second part of your question, the oldest member that I can think of that is actively involved, and there's people older who support it, but we have one person on our leadership board. His name's Ken Marks. He's in Midland, and big Midland Lee rebel guy, but he loves all of the kids in the Permian Basin. He's 84 years old, serves still at the Midland Lee campus, leads in every capacity that you can imagine, just a true servant. And he's really who started FCA.
But a true sportsman, too.
True sportsman, and just a great man in the community. A lot of people will know him in Midland. And he started FCA with Coach Spike Dykes at Midland Lee in 1984. And so they've had FCA really here in the Permian Basin that I can think of at least since 1984. strictly through this one man, and he's been involved ever since, taking kids to camp, leading on campuses, and just a real great man.
Well, you know, and I think it's interesting that you bring up Spike's name, because he coached in Big Spring.
Okay.
And at the high school there, and he said that FCA was the single most important extracurricular activity as far as he was concerned for his athletes, because he said it's hard enough for them to stay on the beaten path as young people with all the distractions that they have. But he said that's just one of the positive tools that I have to work with.
Yeah, no, we love it when we hear coaches brag on it, because coaches are the heartbeat of the ministry. And I can tell you another big coach in this state, Tom Landry, you know, the great Dallas Cowboy, the coach of America's team. And so Tom Landry was a huge supporter of FCA and served on the board even in his retirement in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Just has done great things for this ministry. And the ministry wouldn't be what it is without those coaches. Yeah.
But you hear athletes today say things like, I ain't going to be nobody's role model. Well, you're a role model whether you want to or not. It may be a positive or it may be a negative role model.
That's such an ignorant statement.
It is.
Because either way, it's going to be positive. I think Charles Barkley on the Olympic team was who said
that.
I'm not a role model. I mean, that's such an ignorant statement, really, because no matter who you are, as an athlete, you have a platform, you have influence.
And that's sad not to want it to be a positive influence, and not to be the best you can to influence the people that are watching you and copying you. But so tell me your role in these small communities. Say Crane has a chapter. How do you service them?
Well, it kind of starts two ways. If they don't have an FCA at all, the first thing I do is I go in and try to build relationships. It really all is about relationships. And so whether it's with an administrator at the school or a coach, trying to get an FCA started. And then if there already is FCA, we just service them. Eventually we'll have staff in this area, more than just me, it'll multiply. And so we go in and we provide them with resources, whether they need Bibles or materials for Bible studies.
So you're pretty much covered in this West Texas area you've been working with.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, the ones of you who don't have an FCA, be sure and write down this number and contact him, and he'll make sure that you are able to get one in your community. We'll be back in just a minute and finish this conversation.
Stay tuned. West Texas View will be right back.